I remember we had a colleague and we had to tell her, can you stop putting on Facebook, those locations where you and your child are? Because it's very dangerous.
My children don't tell their office colleagues that they're my children.
At our time, we used to worry if the neighbors or the community was watching. Today, you don't know who's watching.
Both parents and governments and the private sector can all play a crucial role by developing very comprehensive programs that educate and support parents.
Individuality of the child is most precious.
I think as parents, we try our best to be role models for them, but we don't want anyone telling them or even us telling them, like, I did this and I'm like this, and hence you must also be like this.
I help my children discover their passions, their interests. I have also believed in openly discussing the challenges of public life.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Good Parent. And we have an incredible guest lined up. Great stories, great learnings from him. But to introduce this episode, I'm Shailja Dutt, and this is Manoj Kohli. And today we're going to talk to you about legacy, pressure, and privacy, the unseen side of parenting in the public eye. And this episode is important because it's not just about parents who are public figures or family members who are public figures. This is really relevant for every parent today. If you want to bring up your child with confidence, with clarity, with character, in this world, which is hyper visible, hyper noisy, where everything that you do is, recorded digitally in some manner or the other, how can you raise conscious children with character, confidence, clarity? How can you do that? It's also important for parents from that perspective. So this episode really is for all parents trying to bring up their children in the public eye. So over to you, Manoj. You've been a pretty high-profile CEO yourself. Probably one of the most high-profile CEOs in this country. Tell me, as a high-profile family, what kind of pressures do you think people face when they're raising their children? And I know that our children were raised before the gram was a thing, or, but what kind of pressures are there? And what do you imagine it would be today for parents in the public eye?
Yeah, so today is different, but when my children were coming up, I think home was very homely. There was nothing called what I do in office, or what I do, how I work at home. Then between me and my wife, we always wanted to ground our children. They should be very grounded, very normal. I remember once when my elder daughter was in school, I think either in first or second, so she missed her bus, school bus, and there was a sub-inspector from a police station next door whose son used to also go to her school. And sometimes we used to drop both the children, and sometimes he used to drop. So we had a car, actually we had two cars, and he had a two-wheeler. So when he dropped both the children on a two-wheeler, my daughter came back from school and she said, "Mom, he didn't have, it was great fun on the scooter, but he didn't have the second car, not even the first car." Because she assumed that everyone has two cars. So of course my wife explained to her, because our objective was to really make them feel people can have cycles, people can have cars, people can have scooters. And that's why children were extremely grounded and they wanted to build their own life.
So I think privacy at our time was limited to, or, the public eye was limited to neighbors and the community we lived in, because there really wasn't any digital media, there wasn't any. But parents were even then very, very sensitive to what people would say or what. But in today's time, where everything you do, every holiday is out on social media, child's accolades. I remember we had a colleague and we had to tell her, can you stop putting on Facebook, those locations where you and your child are? Because it's very dangerous. If somebody starts tracking those locations, it's very dangerous. And it's very dangerous for a small child. If you're saying, my child is at nursery school here, then my child is at creche here, and you're putting little location pins on Facebook, that's actually very, very dangerous. So privacy now has a very, very different, or public eye, if you call it that, has a very different connotation, because you don't know who's watching. At our time, we used to worry if the neighbors or the community was watching. Today, you don't know who's watching.
So everyone is watching. I think times have totally changed. I feel everyone is watching. And being under the radar is so important, because otherwise you're exposing yourself as a parent and, more importantly, your children too. So I feel that today the public life, if you're making it more and more public digitally, then you're creating much more risk for yourself.
And I also, sometimes feel that because there is a lot of peer pressure also on young parents, so there's a lot of their parenting ideas and parenting styles are actually completely shaped by what their peers perceive them to be. So there's just a lot of pressure on parents today to do, families who are smiling for the camera and fighting inside. But there is a lot of peer pressure, and your parenting style is getting, I think it's actually not such a great thing when your parenting style is completely influenced by public perception of yourself.
Yeah. So the issue is that the social media is become so powerful that it is affecting your mind, it is affecting your style, it is affecting what you say, what not say, how you exhibit yourself, your pictures, etc. And at the same time, the dichotomy is that everyone knows majority of this is false. That's the dichotomy. Everyone knows that 70-80% of what you see, maybe more, is not true. It may be false. Like you rightly said, you're smiling on the picture, but actually you're not smiling at home. Your relationship is not that good. So in this time, parents have a very extra responsibility to keep the child away from so much public exposure. Because the more the exposure, the more the risk, and more the child is becoming conscious that he or she...
The validation of others
absolutely
is important for them.
Yeah.
So they don't have any sense of self-validation, which is so important for healthy
whereas,
growth.
You're right. Whereas my confidence in myself as a child, my conviction that what I'm doing, my values, my ethics are far more important than anything else.
I remember my older one, Ishan, when he was 13, he had a Facebook account. And I'm not even sure why I allowed him to have it. But I remember that some boys in class took his pictures from his Facebook account, made another account, and were sending messages to other girls in the class who also had Facebook accounts. And we're talking about 16 years ago. This was happening. We can only protect our children as far as we regulate or we manage how visible they are in the public eye.
Yeah.
And it's not really necessary to put everything out there on digital media. When parents are leaders or they're visible, public figures, in your opinion, do kids feel inspired or do they feel weighed down?
Both. They feel both. My children have felt both. They have felt inspired that I'm doing something which is good for the country, good for the world, good for the society, which is great inspiration, and their friends respect it too. But they definitely get a pressure. And for example, my children don't tell their office colleagues that they're my children. But they feel that they want to be normal, they want to be natural. The moment somebody knows there's so and so's children, they may get a special position, or they go in a bigger car, people will look at them differently. So they want to be normal clothes, normal car, normal. They want to live because normalcy gives them far greater openness, transparency, and happiness.
I also think that a lot of the weighing down comes from the external environment, because sometimes they'll have family members who will say, or friends of the family who would say things like, well, look at your mom.
Yeah.
You should learn something from her. Or look at your dad. You should. I think that has a terrible impact on children. I think as parents, we try our best to be role models for them, but we don't want anyone telling them, or even us telling them, like, I did this and I'm like this, and hence you must also be like this.
Yeah. So I feel parents also have to negate that pressure very consciously on the children.
I mean, a classic example in India is that you look at any Bollywood kid, has a famous Bollywood father. It's like almost a legacy business. You see that in politics in India. Doctors will have kids who are doctors. There's bureaucrats will pressurize their kids to get into bureaucracy. I think this is also a very important part of being a leader or a public figure, is giving your children that space to develop their own identity. And there are some lessons from just everyday parents that one can learn.
So individuality of the child is most precious. I as a child may have X kind of skills. You as a child have Y kind of skills. Somebody else has some other domain expertise. Somebody has other passion. Every child is so unique. And that individuality we need to nurture rather than we kill. You know?
By allowing them to kind of just
come under
lean
peer
into,
pressure.
peer pressure.
Yeah. So welcome to this very, very important episode of The Good Parent today. And we have one of the leading bureaucrats and great leaders of India, Amitabh Kant, with us. Not only a great Indian bureaucrat who has worked in all the facets of state government, central government, and of course G20, great success of India, he led personally, but also has been a father figure for many new government policies, systems, and he's known to help everyone.
And for viewers who don't know, he's a father to two beautiful, wonderful young girls, Vedika and Vanshika, who are following stellar careers of their own. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to ask you that you've served the nation at the highest level, and there have been, I'm sure, many occasions where you may have had to miss out on family time or special family occasions. What as a father did you do that ensured that emotional connect between the children and you stayed intact?
Well, I would first say that I would schedule regular family weekends or short trips, take the children out. Even the busy schedule, there would be a deep connection over dinners, I would spend time with them. Secondly, you know, there were routine rituals like a morning walk, of watching a movie together, or Sunday brunches, which help maintain emotional bond. And I think we always celebrate uh, festivals together, birthdays, annual family pilgrimages to strengthen togetherness. And I would also say that when my daughters were away, they were studying abroad, or my they were working abroad, we always had video calls or messages.
It's so wonderful to hear you say that, because you really are espousing that idea for parents that make the moments matter. They grow up faster than we know. So it's so important to make those moments matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so here's the next one for you. So there's a silent pressure that comes with being a child of a public figure like you, or being masked in the shadow of parents. How did you help your children navigate comparisons without losing their own identity, which is very important for a parent?
Well, I think the most important thing is that I help my children discover their passions, their interests, whether it was arts, whether it was sports, whether it was academics, whether it was writing. My elder daughter went on to do research and write a book while she was on her first job itself, a book on India and World War One. And my second daughter is being very, very passionate about climate and health. So I think I help them to discover their interests. Secondly, we've had open conversations, regularly discuss what makes each person unique. They are very different in their, uh, you know, uh, outlook as compared to me. They didn't want to follow their dad's career. So they felt that their talents and qualities were very different. And I allowed them to grow and blossom. And thirdly, I think I encourage my children to stay away at a young age from any kind of peer comparison, or promote self-reflected reflection, or live in any kind of my work. I said, you create your own activity, you excel at whatever you are doing. And they kind of learned this art of celebrating their persistence in overcoming challenges, and this kind of built a resilience and a growth mindset. They faced many challenges. uh, uh, and I also shared personal stories. I talked about my own moments of doubt or changing ambitions. And I kept constantly interacting with them to normalize uniqueness and change. And all this was very important because you have to constantly interact with them, you have to constantly discuss with them, you have to constantly make them discover what they are good at. And this is what my job as a father was.
I have two takeaways from that. One is that communication has been so, so central, encouraging it all the time, every time, uh, keeping those channels open for two-way communication. And the other is that you've been a vulnerable, you've shared with vulnerability, your experiences with your children. And I think that builds a bond which is really incredible.
No, I think that is a fantastic recommendation for parents.
Yeah,
I think what
it
you said
is.
in
It's
last two
it's
minutes,
simple. It's
yeah,
it's
it's
common
doable.
sense.
Yeah,
It's just the right thing to do, and we don't see enough of that now.
yeah. You are a very rare parent. Let
Yeah.
me tell you, many parents are not able to do
There,
all this.
there's going to be a lot of learning for parents
Absolutely,
from this.
absolutely. Okay, with such aware children, and I think with your children's experience, they must have picked up so many good learnings from you, from their environment. Have your kids ever said something that made you pause, made you reflect, or even change the way you approached your work or as a policymaker?
They keep once in a while telling me that what you've done is not right, what you said is not right. So they keep giving their inputs and they keep guiding me. So I've also greatly benefited from their inputs and their guidance. And once in a while, they tell me that, that you should take life easy, you're stressed out, you should do more exercise. So they are telling me at my age what I've been telling them at their young age. They keep pulling my leg all the time.
I wanted to also ask you, your children have been really well educated, and they've also had the privilege of having you and Ranjita sort of being great parents to them. And so this is a theoretical question that, there is what we learn in schools and educational institutions, and then there's what we learn at home. And you, as a father, what do you think matters more?
Well, I think the home atmosphere is very critical. The child spends about almost 50 to 60% of his time at home. So the home atmosphere, in terms of uh, motivating them, encouraging them to read, encouraging them to play, encouraging them to be confident, all that is very, very critical. So my wife is an artist, and she has encouraged them to do extracurriculars. So the home atmosphere is very, very important. And also their ability to create friendship, their ability to learn from their teachers, their ability to learn the good aspects of their schools and their education system is all very important. But I think home is really the foundation. Uh, the home atmosphere is very, very critical. School can't do everything.
So that, what I hear you say is that why home is important is home is where the experiences are, where true value building actually happens, character building, confidence building. And school has its own place. The children need to learn, theoretically through application, what we call the academic stuff. But real character building is home.
Yeah, so the value system that you build up comes from the house. What you and what the parents, the atmosphere they create at home. So values like honesty, kindness, resilience, that all comes from the home atmosphere. And I've also believed in openly discussing the challenges of public life. So they understand that criticism is often a reflection of, the circumstances. And several times you get into a challenge, you get into a problem which is not your own making, but you have to fight and come out a winner. And what I've really taught them is that despite all challenges, we must come out emotionally strong. We must come out a winner. And I've always said, be positive, never be negative in your life. Negativity can be overwhelming. There's too much of negativity. So you'll be like any other person. Whereas if you're positive and if you're always optimistic, if you're constructive in your approach, you'll always come out a winner. And that atmosphere can only come from the house.
So well said. I think I'm so happy Ranjita and you are jointly steering them. Of course, you're focusing on different things. She focuses on extracurricular, you focus on other things, but together, values building has been fantastic. So, so in a world chasing quick validation and easy wins nowadays, how do you make your children believe in the value of effort and patience? And as you said, resilience.
I tell my daughters that I encourage them actually to develop confidence in their abilities and to stand firm in their values. And there's a uh, building resilience is very important. There's too much of competition outside. So you have to don't have to worry about failure. You can't always be a winner. There will be failure, but failure uh, is it failure should encourage you to succeed the next time. And don't worry about external noise. And thirdly, I think it's very important to focus on their own uh, growth and integrity. They should be very sure that what they're doing is going about it the right way. And I teach them to see criticism as opportunities to reinforce their confidence. And I think that's what every father, every mother should do. That criticism is not a setback, it's only there to reinforce the confidence.
Absolutely. Very well said.
I like what you said, sir, that it's not a setback. And I'd kind of add to it that, we have to teach our children that criticism is not a setback, it's feedback. You just take it and you dwell on it and you move ahead.
That's a
Yeah.
learning.
We have a ministry for child and welfare and all of, we protect the right of our children. But parenting is becoming so complex, like you said, in this hyper visible digital world. And it was just a thought that struck me that should there be some form of maybe public private partnership or government intervention where we also are educating parents to raise the next generation of responsible, capable citizens? It's just a wild thought, but
No, it's a very important question. And I entirely agree with you because parenting is evolving rapidly and especially in a digital age. And both parents and governments and the private sector can all play a crucial role by developing very comprehensive programs that educate and support parents, because it's also important that the parents must understand their role in creating the new generation of India. The young people will have to play a very critical role, and without the parents realizing that they'll have to be the anchors and that they'll have to help their children grow with value systems and with so structured parenting guiding is also very critical, which should be accessible in local languages all over the country. It should be integrated into schools, and it can help standardize and elevate parenting practices across India. To my mind, it's very, very important.
I'm so happy you picked it up so fast because
yes,
I think for the new India, parenting has to be very, very serious, very different from what it is.
and which is our is the
That's
isn't
one of
that
the
the
goals.
attempt?
That's one of the goals of
Manoj, that
our
we are talking
podcast.
to people,
It's very important because I think initiatives like awareness campaigns, community-based parenting workshops, digital tools, which can empower parents with the knowledge and confidence to raise very responsible children. And this support, to my mind, is very, very critical for a country aspiring to be a developed country by 2047, which is aspiring to be a global leader. And that alone will ensure that our next generation of children and parents are not only academically capable, but also emotionally intelligent, they are ethical, and they are totally future ready.
Absolutely right. I think
That's
so well said.
very well said.
I think, Amitabhji, you've given remarkable feedback for a lot of young parents who are coming up who will see this podcast and they will learn so much from what you said.
Thank you so much. Thank you.